Yeah. Anyway, I think that I couldn't see what could Apple do that would have been better than this, besides not having doing the tests in the first place and finding out this problem earlier. What could have Apple done? I think.
And that's actually one of the Q&As, and that's one of the Q&As I happen to agree with. It's Apple didn't inherently do anything wrong here, but right from the get-go, right from the very second, from the start of this conference, the general tone here was, we haven't made a mistake. We're coming here, we're holding a press conference, we're admitting we've made a mistake and it's something we need to fix, but we're going to spend 20 to 30 minutes of a 15-minute slideshow telling you why we haven't made a mistake and why this is a non-issue. It was just... the very first thing they did was play a YouTube video. Going over, basically saying, what's a non-issue? And you can call me a fanboy for saying I don't have this problem, but that's a...
That video actually kind of ticked me off when I watched it.
It really did sum up the whole parody thing and everything that's been going on online and everything else.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is right at the very end, when he starts saying that if you don't want an iPhone 4, don't buy it stuff. It's like, that's not really new information, so what you're really saying is shut up about it.
Because I can't prove this, I would never say this. But that's one of those videos that just reeks of being viral media spin. Almost like it was not necessarily made by Apple, but might have been sponsored by... I'm not saying that. Okay, tinfoil hats off. I don't think they actually did that. But it's one of those things. I can see the really... Apple sucks, Apple conspiracy nuts accusing them of that. And I wonder if anyone at Apple really thought about that. I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying it could look like that.
If it were any company but Apple, I would agree with you, but since it's Apple, people are actually that devoted, so...
Yeah. No, I don't think they did. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me if there's some tinfoil conspiracy nut out there who said, see, Apple's controlling the social media! They've done it! It's like, I can see it. But it's like the very next thing they did was, go right back to what they've been saying since day one, which is all phones do this. They brought out their little chart, and they brought 3 phones to pick on. Like they picked on a Droid, they picked on a Palm, I want to say was it Pre, and a Samsung Windows phone. And they said, see, all phones do this. Of course, he didn't say death grip. It's in the eyes of Apple, this is, what was it, Antenna-gate? Yeah.
That's what they called it.
Yeah, I thought, they said... And they acted like that's what the internet's been calling it. I don't think anyone's called this Antenna-gate.
I hadn't heard it.
Yeah, I've been hearing death grip. Grip of doom.
We did this to our own phones and we saw that we could do it. It's just the fact that it doesn't happen to our phones when you hold it normally.
Well, no, what they were doing in their thing is they were showing, if you watch the video on Apple's site, it's like they showed holding phones, pretty normally, and they were getting bars to drop. I said this when we first started covering this. When I hold my G1, I hold it normally. When I hold it, I go from full bars here to I lose a bar. So, but I've been in areas where I have almost no bars, and I don't fall off into oblivion. And that was what was really funny here. And they took note to go here and do this, and they went out and found the worst cases of this they possibly could. And what I found interesting to note on all 3 of these phones, like the Droid, it went from 5 bars to 1. the pre or it's like one of them went from 5 bars to 1, one of them went from 4 bars to 0, but it didn't fall off into oblivion. It just got really weak, but it didn't fall off into oblivion. And the same thing with Samsung phone. That's the difference here. It's the night and day difference that Apple doesn't want to talk about. Say it again.
Didn't they do a BlackBerry too?
Yes.
Yes, they did a BlackBerry, an Android device, and a Windows Mobile.
Yeah, that was it. The first one was a BlackBerry. I'm sorry. It's like the BlackBerry went from 5 to 1. The second device was an Android device, and it's. I can understand why they did the Android test the way they did. The Android device went from 4 bars to 0. The important thing to note there is that on Android, 0 isn't 0. When you have no bars on an Android device, you get an X. So 0 means minimum signal strength. But you still have an active signal for making calls in 3G and everything else. And on digital, that's all that matters. Do you have signal or don't you? So it's like, I found it interesting that they were unable to reproduce a death grip, but they went out of their way to show all phones do this. They just don't fall off into oblivion like the iPhone does.
Yeah, you read RIM's response to this?
No, I haven't. What was RIM's response to that?
They have it's pretty sweet. I'll find it for you guys. Alright, just keep talking. I'll find it. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, and they kept going on. You know, they said, best phone ever made. They must have said at least 4 times during this thing. I haven't actually gone and counted, but I know they said it at least 4 times. Best antenna we've ever made.
When I was doing it, I was getting the stuff from that live blog thing, and the funniest thing for me was apparently in the Q&A session, somebody had one of the phones they demoed. They piped up and said, I can't get it to fall off like you just demoed. What am I doing wrong?
Well, no, it's like an actor complex there. And it's like, I think that's why this problem was so bad to begin with. They have an AT&T tower and a Verizon tower. Anyways, go ahead.
You want me to read this or send it to you guys? You see it?
Read it, dude. We don't have time to send everything in. What is it?
Alright, it's about 2 paragraphs. Is that too big?
Well, you only got a few minutes. Can you paraphrase? Or do you need to read the whole thing for the full effect?
Well, here. Apple's, this is from RIM Blackberries, if anyone doesn't know that, is Research in Motion RIM. And this is their response to Apple doing that. Apple's attempt to draw RIM into Apple's self-made debacle is unacceptable. Apple's claim about RIM's products appeared to be a deliberate attempt to distort the public's understanding of an intended design issue and to deflect attention from Apple's difficult situation. RIM is a global leader in antenna design and has been successfully designing industry-leading wireless data products with efficient and effective radio performance for over 20 years. During that time, RIM has avoided designs like the one Apple used in the iPhone 4 and has instead used innovative designs which reduce the risk for drop calls, especially in areas of lower coverage. One thing is for certain: RIM customers don't need to use a case for their BlackBerry smartphones and maintain proper conductivity. Apple clearly made a certain design decision, and it should take responsibility for those decisions rather than trying to draw RIM and others into a situation that relates specifically to Apple.
Yeah, and that's about right. And that's the thing. I really do think trying to drag everyone down to Apple's level here was really uncalled for, and they couldn't even do it. You know, it's like the RIM phone didn't lose signal. Everything RIM just said was true. They went to an area with poor signal, and they couldn't do a death grip. They could just make it weak. They couldn't make it fall off. There's a difference there, people. Anyways, we're going to have to move on to the next part and cover the rest of this.